ever feel like your brain's just kind of like going in a million directions at once? Like you're trying to think, but it's just kind of like...
Yeah, like a browser with 50 tabs open and everything's just slowing down.
Exactly. Well, you are not alone. Today, we are diving into the world of focus based on an episode we listened to recently.
Yeah, from the Learn English podcast.
And hopefully by the end, we can all kind of figure out a way to
Yeah, to get a little bit more done and be a little less all over the place.
Right. So let's just jump right into it. I guess the elephant in the room or the smartphone in the pocket.
Yeah, digital overload, right?
It can't be helping, right? All this dinging and the notifications and all that stuff.
Well, it's not just a feeling, right? It's been studied. The episode we listened to talked about this study from the University of California, and I found that it takes like 23 minutes to refocus after you get distracted by something.
Oh, wow.
So, think about it this way. Every time you get a notification, every time you check your phone, you're essentially adding another 23 minutes onto
Yeah, it's almost like a whole nother TV episode.
Yeah, it's like starting over and over again.
No wonder I can't get anything done. But, so what do we do about it? Do we just, throw away our phones, I mean?
Well, that would be great, but most of us can't really, function in the modern world without it.
Yeah.
So it's more about, being aware of these things
Yeah.
and being strategic about when we check our phones and what notifications we allow, right? If we can kind of get control back instead of letting our phone control us, that would be a good first step.
I like that. Take back control. All right. So what about when it's not even our phone? When it's just our own thoughts,
Oh, yeah, that mental chatter.
Just bouncing from thought to thought.
A lot of times that comes from stress and anxiety,
Oh.
It's kind of imagine trying to read in a room where everybody's just talking really loud. You can't focus on the words on the page.
Yeah. I feel that.
Stress does that. It's kind of like this mental noise that makes it almost impossible to focus on what you need to focus on.
Okay. So what helps with that? I don't know, meditation or something?
Meditation can be good, but even just simple things like making sure you get enough sleep.
Yeah.
Or, getting some exercise, taking breaks throughout the day.
Right.
All that kind of helps just give your brain the resources it needs, instead of constantly running on empty.
Yeah, speaking of running on empty, let's talk about sleep.
Ah, yes. Sleep.
I know it's important, but how important is it really for focus? Can I get away with, the occasional late night?
Well, it's actually really important. And even missing just a little bit of sleep can really affect your focus. Yeah. That podcast that we were talking about earlier, it mentioned a Harvard study, and they found that even just missing an hour or two of sleep can really mess with your attention span, how quickly you can react to things.
Wow. So even those nights when I'm oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, that's actually...
It's catching up with you, yeah.
Yeah, it's hurting me.
Yeah. Think about it trying to run a marathon, but you haven't eaten anything. You might start out okay, but you're going to hit a wall pretty quickly. And sleep is kind of like your brain's food.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense. So sleep is brain food.
Yeah.
What else are we feeding our brain?
Well, that brings us to something people don't always think about.
Diet. Food, yeah.
It can have a big impact on your focus, too.
Really? Okay, what should I be eating?
Well, they talked about this in the Learn English podcast,
Yeah.
too, things like berries, nuts, green vegetables.
Okay, the usual suspects.
Right, but they're good for you. They're full of antioxidants, which help to protect your brain cells from damage.
Oh.
And there's a study from the University of East London, and they found that antioxidants can actually improve your attention.
Wow, so it's not just about energy, it's protecting my brain for the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's food. What about just water, staying hydrated? Does that affect focus?
It does. Even being a little bit dehydrated can make it harder to think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that same study from the University of East London, they found that people who were even mildly dehydrated didn't do as well on tasks that required a lot of focus and concentration.
So water is basically brain fuel too, then?
Yeah, think of it as the lubricant that keeps everything running smoothly.
Okay, so 8 glasses a day. Check.
There you go.
All right. Before we move on, can we talk about multitasking?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Is it really a thing, or is it just a myth?
Well, a lot of people think they're good at multitasking, right?
Yeah, I feel sometimes I get a lot done when I'm kind of bouncing between things.
Right, it feels productive. But research has actually shown that multitasking makes us less efficient overall.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of like if you're driving, you're constantly switching lanes. You might cover more ground, but you're also using a lot more energy and it's more dangerous.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's better to kind of stick to one lane and just focus on one thing at a time.
All right, single tasking it is. Okay, so if we're trying to focus on one thing at a time, how do we even decide what to focus on, Like with all the things that we could be doing, how do we prioritize?
Well, that's where goal setting comes in.
Okay.
Having clear goals,
Hmm.
like what you want to achieve, it helps you prioritize what you need to focus on, right? It's like a compass. It helps you stay on track.
Oh, yeah.
And it's actually really interesting. A lot of successful people throughout history, like Richard Branson, Leonardo da Vinci,
Oh, okay.
they use note-taking and journaling to help them focus.
Note taking, like pen and paper note taking.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh. Why do you think that is?
Well, it gets those thoughts out of your head and onto paper, so you're not like constantly thinking about them.
Right.
And there's something about the physical act of writing that just helps you solidify ideas.
It's like decluttering the mental workspace.
Exactly.
All right, so we've talked about like digital distractions, we've talked about stress, sleep, food, water, multitasking, goal setting. Anything else we're missing, or are we like focus masters now?
I think we've laid some good groundwork,
Okay.
but there's still more to learn about, like specific techniques to actually like put all this into practice.
Okay.
That's what we'll be diving into in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so welcome back to our deep dive on focus.
Part 2.
Last time, we kind of like set the stage, right? Like we talked about sleep and diet and managing all the digital distractions and stuff.
Yeah, we got the groundwork laid.
Yeah. But now I want to know, like, what can we actually do, like, in the moment?
Yeah, like the techniques and strategies.
Yeah, like when I'm sitting down and I need to focus and my brain's just like all over the place.
Well, one thing you could try is the Pomodoro technique. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I think I tried it once.
So it's basically working in these focus bursts, right? Like
Mhm.
you set a timer for 25 minutes, you work on one task, no distractions, and then you take a short 5-minute break. And then you do that like 4 times, and then you take a longer break.
Yeah, I kind of liked that because I knew, like, okay, I just got to push through for 25 minutes and then I get a break and then I could kind of like,
Yeah, it makes it more manageable.
yeah, keep going. Is that the idea behind it?
Yeah, it's kind of like working with your brain's natural rhythms, right? Our brains aren't really meant to focus on one thing for hours and hours at a time.
Right.
So these short bursts, it's kind of like giving your brain a chance to recharge.
Okay. That makes sense. But what about those of us who can't even focus for like 5 minutes, let alone 25?
Well, then you might want to try something like mindfulness meditation.
Hmm.
Yeah, even just like a few minutes of focusing on your breath can actually strengthen the part of your brain that's responsible for focus.
So I don't have to like go sit on a mountaintop and
Well, I don't know, not at all.
Okay.
You can do it right at your desk, close your eyes for 5 minutes
Mm-hmm.
just to become aware of like your breath, your body, and when your mind wanders, you just gently bring it back.
So it's like a workout for your brain.
Exactly, you're training your focus muscle.
I like that. All right, so we've got Pomodoro, we've got mindfulness. What else?
Well, it's also really important to take breaks, like real breaks, not just switching from one task to another.
Oh, okay. Like what does that look like?
Like get up, move
Yeah.
around, go outside, get some fresh air.
So no, like scrolling through social media?
No screens.
Yeah.
Like disconnect completely for a few minutes.
Give your brain a chance to like reset.
Exactly.
All right, okay. So it's not just about what we do when we're trying to focus, but also like what we do when you're not trying to focus.
Yeah, exactly. It's all connected.
Okay, so what about like the space around us? Does that affect our ability to focus?
It definitely can.
Yeah.
Like having a tidy workspace, good lighting, a comfortable temperature.
Okay, so what if my desk is a mess? Does that really matter?
It might seem like a small thing, but clutter can actually be really distracting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like all these visual stimuli competing for your attention.
Oh,
So having a clean and organized space can really help to clear your mind.
clean desk, clear
Mhm.
mind. Okay. What about noise? Like I find it really hard to focus when there's a lot of noise around me.
Yeah, that's a common one. If you're sensitive to noise, you could try using noise-canceling headphones or listening to like calming music.
Oh yeah, like classical music or something.
Yeah, that could work. Or nature sounds, ambient music, anything that kind of like helps you create a calm and focused atmosphere.
Yeah, I find music really helpful. Okay, so we've got tidy workspace, lighting, temperature, noise, anything else?
Oh, this is an interesting one. Scent.
Scent.
Yeah, certain smells can actually help you focus.
Really? Okay, like what?
like peppermint, rosemary, lemon.
Interesting.
They have these stimulating and clarifying properties.
Okay, so I should get like a diffuser or something.
Yeah, you could try that.
Never would have thought of that. So it's like all these little things combined.
Yeah, it's about creating an environment that supports your focus.
Right, okay. So we've created the perfect focus environment, but like how do we make these changes stick? Like how do we actually build those focus habits for the long term?
Well, one really important thing is exercise.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
But it's true. Exercise isn't just good for your body, it's good for your brain, too.
Okay, but how does it help with focus?
When you exercise, it increases blood flow to your brain,
Oh, okay.
and that helps to deliver oxygen and nutrients that your brain needs to function properly.
So it's like brain food too.
Exactly. And there have been studies that show that exercise can actually improve your attention span, your memory, and just your overall cognitive function.
Okay, all right. I'm convinced. Time to get moving. What else?
Stress management is also really important.
Mm.
Like we talked about it before in terms of like immediate stress relief, but it's also important for long-term focus.
Yeah, okay.
Because when you're chronically stressed, it's like your brain is constantly in this like fight or flight mode, and that makes it really hard to concentrate.
So it's about finding healthy ways to cope with stress.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know, meditation, spending time in nature.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever works for you.
Okay, so exercise, stress management, and of course, we can't forget about sleep.
Yes, sleep. So important.
But why is it so important for long-term focus? Like, isn't it enough to just get enough sleep?
It's not just about the quantity of sleep. It's about the consistency.
Oh, we got
When you have a regular sleep schedule, your body gets into this rhythm.
All right.
And it knows when to release certain hormones that help you fall asleep and wake up.
So it's like training our bodies to know when to sleep and when to wake up.
Exactly. It's all about creating that consistency.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got exercise, we've got stress management, we've got sleep. Is that everything or is there more?
Well, there's one more layer that we need to talk about, and that's individual differences.
What do you mean by that?
Like, everyone's brain is different, right?
Yeah.
Some people are naturally more focused than others.
Okay, yeah.
And some people have conditions that make it harder for them to focus.
Right, right. So like how do we take that into account?
Well, that's what we'll be exploring in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, stay tuned everyone because we're going to get even deeper into the world of focus. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive on focus.
The grand finale.
Exactly. And last time we were talking about how, everyone's brain is different.
Yeah, individual differences.
Yeah, and how that can affect focus. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, like you mentioned earlier, that sometimes you need to let your mind wander a little bit to get those creative juices flowing.
Yeah, I definitely do.
And that actually makes a lot of sense because some people are just naturally more inclined to have like a more free-flowing kind of thinking style.
So there are different, thinking styles.
Yeah, there are. And some people thrive on structure and routine, while others need more flexibility and spontaneity.
I feel like I've heard about that, like with personality types and stuff.
Yeah, like those personality tests that tell you if you're a planner or a free spirit.
Right. Is there actually, science behind that?
There is, actually. Like, for example, there's this personality trait called openness to experience. And people who score high on that trait tend to have a more divergent thinking style.
Divergent thinking? What's that?
It means they're really good at brainstorming, exploring multiple possibilities, thinking outside the box.
Oh, okay. So that might explain why some people are really good at coming up with creative ideas, but maybe not so good at, following through on them.
Exactly. And it's not about saying one style is better than the other. It's just about understanding your own tendencies and finding strategies that work for you.
So, if you're someone who needs more structure, maybe you should try using a planner or setting deadlines for yourself.
Exactly. And if you're someone who needs more flexibility, maybe you should try working in shorter bursts or giving yourself more breaks.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about people who, really struggle with focus? Not just because of their personality, but because of, a condition like ADHD.
That's a really important point. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder that can make it really hard to regulate attention.
So it's not just a matter of willpower, if you just try harder, you can focus?
No, it's not that simple. It's a real condition that affects the brain. But the good news is there are treatments and strategies that can help people with ADHD manage their symptoms.
So even if you have ADHD, you can still improve your focus.
Absolutely. And everyone, regardless of their personality or any conditions they might have, can benefit from learning how to focus better.
Because at the end of the day, focus is a skill, right? It's not something you're just born with.
Exactly. It's like a muscle that you can train and strengthen over time.
Okay, so for all the people listening out there who are like feeling overwhelmed and don't know where to start, what's your like one piece of advice?
Start small. Don't try to change everything at once. Just pick one or two things from this deep dive that resonated with you and try incorporating them into your daily routine.
So like maybe try the Pomodoro technique or like we were
hmm
talking about earlier, declutter your workspace.
Exactly. And be patient with yourself. It takes time to build new habits.
So progress over perfection.
Exactly.
This has been so helpful, honestly. I feel like I have a much better understanding of focus now.
Me too. And I hope our listeners feel the same way.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
And to our listeners, we hope you learned something new and feel inspired to take control of your focus.
Remember, a focused mind is a powerful mind.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.